UFO disclosure? Why now? We're going to give you 5 reasons why, coming up next on Deceptions of the Ages News. Hello everybody, and welcome to Deceptions of the Ages News, where we look at the issues of UFOs, Mormons or Latter-day Saints, and Freemasons. And today we are going to look at, guess what? UFOs. Why? Because suddenly there has been disclosure. Well, it's not like they came out and said, oh, the aliens have landed on the White House lawn or anything, but the military has released some, I guess, gun camera footage of some suspicious craft that the Air Force or the military is saying that are, oh, actually, I guess it was the Navy. I don't want to offend those people, but they're saying that these are unidentified aircraft and that for some time they had been carrying on a project to investigate really intense aerial, I guess you'd call them phenomenon or craft. But what they were actually doing, of course, is they were spending money to go around and investigate UFOs. And pretty much they have come out and said, we were spending money to investigate UFOs, but of course, they always finish that story by saying, but we don't do it anymore. Now, I'm not going to give you a history lesson, but I'm going to just review very quickly how many times the Air Force has done this. They did this with, the first one was Grudge, then there was Blue Book, and then Blue Book was canceled, Grudge was canceled, and they had Blue Book, but then there was no Blue Book, and then they started, I guess, this program in 2007. Or thereabouts, and continued it until supposedly 2012, but and then they discontinued it. Most likely it disappeared into black projects. Okay, so now let's talk about the 5 reasons why we're having this pseudo disclosure now. And before we begin, I just have to editorialize for 1 second and say, hey, you know, you have ruined so many people's lives. The government has. I mean, people have been drummed out of the aviation industry, out of education, out of being policemen for talking about UFOs by a government-sponsored program. And I think that before they come out and start to talk about UFOs, and that there are UFOs, they really should come out and say, you know what, we're really sorry. We're really sorry we destroyed so many lives and we made people look so ridiculous to their families and friends because we were doing it because we wanted to have national security, or most likely they wanted to get the corporations to take advantage of this technology. But before we even go any farther than that, I think that the government probably does owe the public a huge apology and give some kind of reason, because when you come out and just say, oh yeah, well there's UFOs, well then you get what we're going to talk about now. Okay, so reason 1, why would they come out now and say that there are UFOs? Well, in my book, Deceptions of the Ages, I talk about how, and this is, I wrote this in 2010, but in the book, the specific quote is, and I'm going to flash it here on the screen, but the failure to admit that these aerial phenomena are real really gives a credibility gap to the government. And because of so many things that are going on now, I mean, we have Donald Trump as the president, we have half of the country hating half of the country, and we have a media that just foments all of this dissension, and they're really trying to stir up hatred. And why are they doing this all this time? And then suddenly, oh yeah, and by the way, there's UFOs. Well, again, it has to do with that credibility gap. And if they don't come clean on something, then they're not going to be able to be trusted on anything. So that's the first reason I believe that they are going to come clean, or that they're starting to come clean on the UFOs, is just that they're up to so many things, so many nefarious things. This is just the small portion of it. Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about is, after the credibility reason, is the technology. We have developed such advanced technology now, and we're able to look so far into the universe, and we're able to pick up so many different kinds of signals, and we probably have already done this, for decades, but we are going to run into something. Somebody's going to run into something that they're not going to be able to say, hey, that's an asteroid or a swamp gas. Somebody's going to, there are so many things on YouTube now, like every day there are dozens of videos of craft around the sun that are like the size of the Earth or even bigger. And there are so many instances of real physical evidence that, again, it's that credibility thing, but it is the fact that somebody's going to run into these extraterrestrial people. It's just going to happen very soon. And when it happens, the government wants to have a handle on it, and they want to say, well, yes, we understand it, and we've been studying this for some time now, and so we're the experts, so there's nothing to see here, and we'll deal with it and give you whatever information that we want you to give. That's reason number 2. Okay, so reason number 3, 4, and 5 have to do more with what the government might actually be up to. And we know, just by history, that the government doesn't do anything or release any information unless there is a bigger plan. And so what is the plan the government has, if there is one, for releasing information about UFOs now? Well, if you go back to people like William Cooper, who said a long time ago, back in the 1970s, that they were going to use this UFO presence, or this UFO technology that they have, to create some kind of false invasion. There are also other people besides William Cooper that talked about, around the time that the Soviet Union had succumbed, and all these things had taken place. A guy who was a Civil War general wrote about that there would be some kind of a fake, like, alien invasion, or some kind of invasion that would make people cling for a new world order. And so there are people like John Lear, who talked about how on 9/11, I don't know if this is true or not, but he talked about how they were actually using holographic images of planes and this and that. And, I don't know that this stuff is true or not, but I know the technology is there. And so is this getting the people ready for some kind of terror inspired thing that comes from aliens or outer space? Well, maybe that's reason number 3. Okay, so reason number 4 really lies along those lines of some kind of an alien invasion, or something that requires the United Nations to step in and take control of the United States. And I don't know if you've been following developments lately, but actually there are UN forces stationed in Chicago, which is against our Constitution. It's a foreign army. And somehow, under the President Trump, the foreign army is sitting on our soil. And so what are they doing here? So are they waiting for this big invasion, or whatever it is that they're going to spring on us? I don't know. But reason number 4 could be UN takeover of the United States. Okay, and finally is the very last reason I think that they may have disclosed this at this time, And this has to do with more of a speculation or whatever, and is actually more frightening. Because I made a video a few weeks ago about a object called Muama. I know I'm not pronouncing that right, but anyway, this object came into our solar system, and it was really a funny looking object, and I made a video about it. So you can just look on, you can click on this link here, and you can watch that video. But the thing is that, as I said in the very first part of this presentation, what if we run into some kind of alien life or alien technology or something? And what if that object is actually what I said it is? I think it's actually a bunch of dead aliens that are just floating around the galaxy, lifeless, because somebody zapped their ship. But if there are ships, because they called that thing the Scout, right? And I can't remember the other name for it. The Messenger. They called it the Messenger and the Scout. That's the translation in Hawaiian for the name Mau, whatever that. Can't even sing that song. But anyway. What if the Scout or the Messenger is a Scout and it is a messenger? What if that is bringing more like it into our solar system? And what if we're about to get pelted by either a bunch of dead spaceships, a bunch of debris, or a bunch of live aliens that are trailing that thing? So it's all pretty interesting stuff, and I don't know why the government would release it now, but it's a really weird kind of thing where there's nobody's jumping for joy and saying, oh, we have disclosure, because the government through it all is just releasing these little gun, these gun camera things, but they're always going to say that we just don't know what it is, and that we're looking into it and we're investigating it. But that's all they're ever going to say. So is it really disclosure? Maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. And the last thing I'm going to say is, if you read my book, Deceptions of the Ages, you're going to understand that there are people like you and I that, yes, this is fine for. But there are people that they just want to buy makeup, and they want to watch things like The View, and they don't care about aliens and what happens in the world or whatever. They just do what the television tells them to do. So those are the kinds of people that I think the government just says to hell with them. But we're going to start telling the people like you that are intelligent and that are interested in this kind of stuff, because those are the people we need on our side. So maybe that's the reason they're doing it now. But anyway, we are starting to have disclosure, and so hopefully people will not lose their jobs or their careers now, because the government has quasi-officially said, yeah, we've been chasing them around for a while. So, Deceptions of the Ages, Mormons, Freemasons, and Extraterrestrials. The Extraterrestrials are still on the back burner. We'll see you next time on Deceptions of the Ages News.